Chapter 5 of Poppy Playtime came out recently, and things certainly happened in it. The prototype was one of them, and I won't lie, he did not look how I expected. Not at all. Anyways, hi, I'm Ranuncle, and I enjoy making scary art. If you have not been catching up with the Poppy lore, the prototype is essentially the mastermind behind the abandonment of the factory. He's seen as extremely intelligent and the big bad now that most of the mad scientists have gone. The thing here is that he's been hyped up for literal years, which means whatever we were gonna get as a design, it was gonna disappoint someone. I'm a person that likes to design creatures and characters a lot, as well as redesign them, and I'd say I have a bit of an eye on what goes on in the inner workings of a design. And I'm here to say that the prototype, in my eyes, has a perfectly good design. However, the design is more for a one-off villain than for the final big bad of this now giant franchise. In a bit, I'm going to get into why I feel that way, and then the way I go about trying to rework it. But, first and foremost, I am not trying to bash any creatives. And I, myself, am not professionals like they are. I just like drawing. The artists, animators, programmers, voice actors, and sound designers are the backbone of this franchise, and they should be treated as such. What I'm doing in this video is just for fun, and I have a lot of respect for the people here. Honestly, they're the type of people I look up to. Anyways, let's get into the meat. The miscellaneous fluid in the barrel. So first off, we're going to be going over this guy's personality and purpose, because it'll be important in the design process. As mentioned before, the prototype is an extremely important antagonist in the story of the game. If I had to sum him up from my knowledge, he's essentially the world's most dangerous helicopter parent. All the rest of the other toys bend to his will, and the ones that do not have a bounty on them. But he's not some violent sadist like Mr. Computer over there. He does what he does in order to try and help his fellow survivors out. However, those methods are not exactly kind and caring. He shows no mercy to people who step out of line. He's a cunning dictator. He's smart. He speaks not with rage, but with composure. At the same time, he makes a spectacle from rule breakers, literally grafting them to his giant spider body. This is all I've taken from the games in terms of his personality. The reason I'm saying this is because in most media, a good character design has a purpose. The character design should validate or get across the personality and reason for existence within. It's good then to have a theme that elevates this purpose while tying it all together. For example, let's look at another mascot horror, the grandfather of modern mascot horror, FNAF. The purpose of the monsters in the game is to be these animate, friendly-looking objects that can actually hurt you. The theming helps this by having them be animatronics, because animatronics always teeter on the edge of the uncanny valley, and the fact they don't live but they move makes them all the more off-putting. Most animatronics are supposed to look approachable, but these factors might make them the opposite for certain people, aka perfect for mascot horror. The prototype's purpose is to be the big but calculated monster behind all the things happening within the facility, but it's sort of a mess visually, and not in the way that was wanted. He's a jester, but he doesn't have much of a reason to be. It would be cool if he was a puppeteer, but he's only vaguely related to that. And that's the main problem with the design. The purpose is there, but its execution is confusing. Let's also get into the general design and shape language. So the dude looks like this, right? And maybe it was just my personal problem, but the spindly hands always made me think this dude was going to be a whole lot leggier and spider-like. However, the shapes present, along with the small legs compared to the body, makes him out to be sort of this crab-like creature. He's chunky, not spindly. This is remedied a bit by the way he gracefully moves about in animation, but it doesn't change the fact that his base design looks a bit clumsy. Especially this giant metal body on those tiny sharp points that his legs ended. It feels like he should be falling over constantly. The shapes on play here are these, which is more squarish with some accents of triangles. These are more commonly seen in raw force type characters instead of brainy ones. However, his top, made up almost entirely of triangles, gives a different impression from his bottom. He's basically Jack Skellington in a jester suit. This part of him does look spindly and cunning, but with the rest of the body, it only kind of serves to confuse how dangerous this dude actually is. All of it muddies what I'm supposed to take from the design, and I still don't really understand how he navigates the facility while being so large. The other thing here is that he was made out to be more of an amalgamation of different toys and objects. However, he's really just one toy atop another. There's the jester, and then there's the giant, expertly crafted mechanical spider legs. This body really doesn't have any flaws, which leads me to wonder if the prototype really made this himself or he just found a giant spider mech around somewhere. His face is also perfectly round. I actually quite like this. It looks like he's kind on the outside but dangerous the longer you look at him. Or would, if it wasn't for the most evil facial features I've ever seen. He looks just as scary as all the other monsters. And again, does that mean he made this face to be this way? Or the workers at Playtime Co. just made yet another very scary looking kid's toy? It doesn't look like he was made from scrap besides a weirdly small eye. And can we fire the guy who keeps making these? Now, you might be saying that's the whole point. His whole point is to be a jumble of parts. And I understand, but there are better ways to do that. We have two wildly different designs stuck together without any real work done to fuse them in a way that accentuates both parts instead of taking away from the whole. It's not a design that leads the eye naturally. There's actually a very good recent example of this, and that is Chimera Fallon from Dungeon Meshi. She's not made of scrap, but she is made up of 3 different designs. The red dragon, the white dragon, and the human. Now, there was many ways to mess this up, but the whole thing was actually done really well. Let's divide her into 3 sections with the accents also shown. As you can see, all sections have characteristics taken from the others. However, they still have the distinction that makes it clear that Fallon is a chimera, and not a naturally made being. It might not seem like much, but this is what really completes this design. Now, I might have my own opinions on this design, but there's no denying it is beautiful in the way it leads the viewer. The prototype is a less graceful version of this, and again, it's not bad, but it's just a bit more underwhelming. Anyways, what else do I have to say? It's funny that he's skinned catnap and wears them like a rug. The muscles mixed in with the mechanical joints is very unsettling and gross and cool. And also, I love the sound design. I love it when he tries to catch you and his hands make that creaking noise, like... That's so awesome. All in all, his design looks confused and he's a bit more underwhelming than he should be. Oh, and some behind the scenes stuff. So this was the creative director for the first 4 chapters of Poppy Playtime. After chapter 5 released, he actually gave a bit of insight onto what the chapter was going to look like before he left. Let me read it out here. Chapter 5's prototype is a pretty different character from the original in both the way that he acts and looks. He was very similar to the Catnap Shrine. He had a jester head with the body of scrap, human parts, and remains of toys he wished to make an example of. There are several small toys, plus Mommy, Catnap, and Doey's heads. One of my favorite cut bits was the several grab packs on his back, which he could use to lift himself and chase after you. We never finalized the design. If we are to follow this, then the prototype didn't actually have an official design until this chapter, and from the way he looks, I kinda thought so. This is the type of design that says we need to pack a lot into this guy, but we're rushed for time, and we can't possibly make him as threatening as we lead on, so let's wing it. And honestly, they did pretty well. I'm just here to try and make him even scarier. But it's just crazy that they did that. Before we get into the real redesign, let me firstly show my designs that I think missed the mark. This first was honestly just for me and what I liked, and I imagined him more as this very jokey but dangerous clown thing. I still like it, but that's not what I'm going for this design. The second one was the prototype with the changes that were talked about in Christopherson's thread. I only changed those things. It's actually pretty far from the prototype's prototype designs, and I'm not too fond of it. If you're wondering about the official concept art of the prototype's design, it looks like this. Pretty cool, honestly. It looks like at first they were trying to go with a comedically underwhelming design, then turned around and tried making a much more fitting one. The clown stuff stayed for the whole thing, which might explain why the face looks a bit odd for the official design. Anyways, now we'll get into my own redesign. So, here's the changes I want to make to the prototype. He will look more like a creepy crawly, be a jumble of many parts, and be disgustingly organic, yet he tries to look professional despite it. Now, we'll see what we can do with this. For bugs, I chose a parasitic wasp and a robber fly. I really wanted to try and get that hunched, long-legged look while staying away from, of course, Mommy Longlegs. So I kept his centaur stance and also made him much, much longer. I also decided to give him more ties to Poppy with his face mold. I imagined that this was an old porcelain jester toy that was meant to go with the Poppy doll later down the line. To cut the budget, they used the same faces. In addition to that, his face is meant to look round and innocent to contrast with the repulsive rest of his body. After all, he was an innocent child caught in the crossfire. Now, he's a bit more apathetic towards killing dozens of people, but he still wears the veneer of childlike innocence in order to make others feel safe with him. Or he wears it to let their guards down, and then he comes out with the claw. Shing, shing. As you can see, I spent a lot of time just trying to figure out how to get his legs right. It was hard because even though I wanted him to be bug-like, I didn't want to fall into the same perfectly crafted robotic legs that he has in his normal design. His hands were kept because they are extremely iconic, but now they're mostly used to puppet corpses around. This also lets him hide his hands so people let their guards down, and then he comes out with the claw, he comes out with the... I decided to add some things talked about and shown in the official concepts, such as the multiple heads and the grab packs for legs. It would be fun if one face talked and then another would pick up where they left off after a voice change. It would also be really creepy, like I would hate looking at that, which means I'm adding it. I tried making him look as put together and scrappy as possible. Literally every part of him, save for his front, is random toy parts haphazardly smashed together to make this awkward but somehow stable mess. He's got bronze leg, multiple hands for one arm, and muscles strewn throughout. I also wanted to give him more comforting bits, such as the dangling stars on his stomach that you might see above a toddler's crib, but that's really the only thing that gives him any air of softness. My biggest inspiration was making him look like a puppet show. He has a big top on his back and uses his victims to make his own theater. In my version, I think the prototype could have killed the player from the start, but instead, he spares you in order to make you the centerpiece in his biggest show yet. You don't realize until later that you're in a tragedy because he's hiding behind the curtain while he pulls your strings. Of course, it doesn't really go that way in-game, but I can't turn that trait around, pun intended. Anyways, I don't have much more to say about this design, so I'll just let this play out. Enjoy! So, this is the finished design. I had a lot of fun making this, and I might make more in the future, though I'm not guaranteeing it. Also, I was a bit sad to see the cartoonishly evil smile go, so I kept it. It's just underneath his face/skin. I think a lot of mascot horror has the potential to really twist nostalgia, just as FNAF did before them, but most don't. The first chapter of Poppy Playtime was really good at setting the vibe, though now it's gone a bit jumbled. I tried to go for an antique doll theme because that's not played with a lot in these sorts of games, and I say I did pretty good. And if you like this, maybe stay tuned, as I will be uploading more bizarre, nostalgic, and creepy things for the foreseeable future. And thanks for watching!